Today's show, we have some huge breaking news for you today. We've got Kamala Harris, who has chosen Tim Walz as the Minnesota governor as her vice presidential pick. A lot of people are saying, man, this was too much. He's super progressive. Even at one point, he called himself a socialist. So they're very far left in terms of the political spectrum. But we have some things you're definitely going to want to see. We have breaking news that there's been an illegal boycott against X or Twitter, Rumble, and more. They are filing lawsuits today because they say that they've been they're attacking free speech. This has been in the making ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter. And now they have enough evidence to show that they have been trying to control the media and they're trying to illegally boycott. Vance, who is Trump's VP, is literally tearing reporters a new one for not doing any interviews with Kamala Harris or even asking her questions pertaining to her policies now that she's the Democratic pick for over 2 weeks. And they are treating her soft just like they did Biden before the debate. We also have Josh Hawley, who is ripping into the lab leak theory pertaining to the pandemic virus, catching the doctors red-handed in this corrupt cover-up. And you won't believe what I'm about to tell you. But Ford Motor Companies, you know Ford, the trucks, cars, all that, Ford Mustang, they just filed a patent that would report speeding vehicles to the police. So if you're speeding, cars around you are speeding, they filed a patent that they would work with the police and report those around that they're speeding so the cops can come get them. I've got this news for you. This is insane. Too much Big Brother stuff is happening. But I want to say thank you to everybody that is watching, to all of our subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button so we can serve you every day with the top news. Thank you to all of our members. Michelle Fela, a new member of the channel, thank you for joining. And to everybody that gives a super chat, a donation, we appreciate it so much. It is such a big blessing to me and my family. We just thank you so much. We want to serve you every day with the top news. But let's get right into it. We got so much breaking news. You're going to love it, but we want to show you all the facts. So, check it out.
Kayleigh McEnany now joins us in studio, and good morning to you. Already Republicans are saying this is the most extreme ticket in political history. What's your take on Tim Walz on the undercard now?
This is a stunning choice. I imagine there's a lot of...
Also, if you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, it really does help to grow the channel right there. Thank you so much.
...hearing at Mar-a-Lago at the moment. Look, Tim Walz, he's no one to scoff at. He unseated a 6-term Republican in Congress. He won a conservative district. He began as a moderate, and then he had a radical transformation as soon as he got a trifecta in Minnesota. I think it is fair to call him a progressive in sheep's clothing. When you look at his record over the last few years, what you see are transgender surgeries for minors, carbon electrical grid by 2040, driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. In function, his abortion policy allows abortion until birth. These are policies that are far to the left of America. And as John McCormick at the Wall Street Journal pointed out, Kamala Harris has to do the exact opposite of what Tim Walz did. Tim Walz became more progressive. Kamala Harris is trying to become more moderate. But Republicans are going to say, you've shed all your progressive policies, but yet you chose a progressive instead of the guy who outperformed Donald Trump and Joe Biden in Pennsylvania, and that man's name is Josh Shapiro.
And that could potentially bring support from Jewish voters, something the Harris campaign needs sorely, no matter who's on the ticket with her. What do you think tipped the scales for the campaign? It is, as you mentioned, a bit of a shock choice. Do you think it was an ideology bent here, or do you think it was based on raw polling?
So the word coming out of the Kamala Harris camp to reporters was chemistry. She wanted someone with whom she had chemistry. I would love to know what Obama said to her on the phone, because this time last cycle, 4 years ago, Joe Biden was having apprehensions about choosing Kamala Harris. He called Obama. He expressed these reservations to Obama per CNN, and Obama said back to him, none of that is as important as winning. So I wonder what Obama said, because if this is a chemistry choice, that's fantastic if you have chemistry, but if you don't make it to Pennsylvania Avenue in 2 months, the chemistry doesn't matter. So I've got to believe this was an innate decision of how she was feeling, but feelings should go out the window when you're looking at the path to 270.
So Tim Walz is 60 years old. He came to politics late in life, really at the age of 42. He was a high school teacher. He was a high school football coach. He was with Dana and me on this program 2 weeks ago. He's affable. He's likable. He carries a smile with just about everywhere he goes. And I think maybe the personality characteristics here is probably what sold him with Kamala Harris. Ultimately, the question is this. You're going to spend, if you win, you spend a lot of time with this person. Who do you feel comfortable with? Who do you want to be around? And I think a lot of times the person on the top of the ticket has failed that test.
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, I just talked to a former Republican congressman who said he's a nice guy. I really liked Tim Walz in Congress. He does have that folksy demeanor. I think maybe there's a belief in the Kamala Harris campaign that he could help with Western Wisconsin, which shares a media market with Minnesota, that he could help in a place like Michigan. So he's not to be dismissed, but it's just leaving a huge, wide, gaping opening for Jay.
I got some things to show y'all that show how progressive this guy is. Also, that he was in charge in the 2020 riots in Minnesota and what it looked like, so you can get a full picture of what it's like under this dude's leadership.
Vance and Donald Trump to expose with a progressive record when you're trying to sell yourself to independents, which, by the way, Donald Trump is still winning among independents. Joe Biden won independents by 9. Kamala has to play catch up. I don't know how Tim Walz does.
So he had support from Bernie Sanders. He had support from Elizabeth Warren. You must believe that Republicans are going to try and exploit that political relationship there. Back to the point about Pennsylvania. If you're a Democrat in the Electoral College, you cannot win the White House unless you win Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes. As for Minnesota, Republicans have not won there since 1972.
Whoa.
That's Richard Nixon.
That's 50 years.
It's a blue state. You chose a blue state governor. To your point, so let's say Tim Walz helps to take her over the line in Wisconsin and Michigan. Let's just say he does that. And let's say she picks up Nevada and Arizona along the way. You still don't win without Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro outperformed Trump by 3 points in 2016 in Pennsylvania, outperformed Biden by 3 points, then went on to win the gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania by 15 points. If you make a map choice, and I analogize Shapiro to the Glenn Youngkin choice. Glenn Youngkin, an enormously popular governor in Virginia. Maybe he could have helped to take Virginia out of the blue column. She chose not to choose the map choice. The Trump campaign chose not to choose the map choice. In their calculus, I guess VP doesn't matter, and those other...
And right now, what we're seeing is that this guy who... Remember, if Kamala Harris and them win, then this is going to be the vice president. And so when you look at, if you go to X, and I'm going to share this with you right now, whenever he was, he still is the governor of Minnesota, there's things that are popping up where this was Minnesota, this was Minnesota during the riots in 2020, and he was over them. That all this destruction that happened under his watch, and he failed to act like he was supposed to, flying the flag upside down. And this is, I like what this says. This isn't Iraq. This is Minnesota under Tim Walz as governor. This is America if they win. Trump 2024 is the only way. Check this out. How insane is this? This was after the riots. Like, you would think this was like a third world country. But no, this is the riots that took place under his governorship, and he literally didn't take the action necessary. JD Vance has some words about him, about what he's done. He's very progressive, has, gave illegal aliens driver's licenses, made it illegal for them to drive, which in my mind, I'm thinking that doesn't make any sense. If they're illegal, and whether they're a sanctuary city or not, we're giving them more rights, which to me doesn't make sense. This is right here. Tim Walz smiling as he signs a law that provides driver's license for illegal aliens in Minnesota. So that's no bueno. There's a lot of things that he's done that's been very, very far left progressive. Look, this is another video. This is what happened to Minnesota while Governor Tim Walz was in charge. All the burning, the George Floyd protests, like, it's just so sad because it's your own community and people burn down their own community, which is, why would you do that? Like, you're supposed to help your community. You're supposed to help them be better. And so with that, look at these pictures. JD Vance has some words on him. We're going to switch over to that because it's very, very enlightening.
Construction of the border wall, and she stopped the Remain in Mexico policy that had kept a lot of Americans safe. Now, today we're going to talk to a lot of Americans who have suffered and had children and loved ones who have died because of these border policies. It has led to record fentanyl overdoses in our country. It's led to a lot of migrant crime from people who shouldn't even be here. And it's, of course, driven up the price of housing for a lot of Americans who shouldn't have to compete with 20 million illegal aliens for scarce homes. Obviously, the big news of the day is that Tim Walz has been nominated as the VP, or is now the presumptive nominee, I should say, for Kamala Harris. My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is.
Remember, Kamala Harris set up bailed the rioters for the George Floyd and all these things protests. She set up a fund where they poured millions and millions of dollars into this fund to bail these people that caused all this destruction out of jail. So this was such a savage comment that he made, that Tim Walz allowed them to burn up their own cities, and then Kamala Harris just bailed them out.
More instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies. I'll take a couple questions, then we're going to hit the road and go to this press conference. Yeah.
You would show that with its anti-Semitism, the reason why you believe Kamala Harris didn't choose Josh America to with that.
Well, it's not what I believe, it's what the Democratic leadership has said. Many people said repeatedly that the reason Kamala Harris was going away from the Josh Shapiro selection is because they were worried about anti-Semitism. They were worried about certain voters. They were worried about some of the leaders and the grassroots activists in their party wouldn't take a Jewish nominee. I think it's despicable. I think it's disgusting, but that is right out of the words of many members of the Democratic leadership. And so now we have Tim Walz, but again, most importantly, we have Kamala Harris. Her policies have been a disaster, and they will remain so if the American people give her promotion.
Senator, have you or Governor Walz reached out to one another? I know when you're going to be. You guys have reached out.
I actually, on the way to the flight in Cincinnati, I guess in northern Kentucky, I actually called Tim Walz. I left a voicemail. I didn't get him, but I just said, look, congratulations. Look forward to a robust conversation and enjoy the ride. And maybe he'll call me back. Maybe he won't. Yeah.
Senator, excuse me. Yeah. The governor and Vice President Harris are expected to take a battleground state tour in the next couple of days.
Sure.
Former President Trump won't be making a public campaign appearance until Friday in Montana. Is that a missed opportunity?
No, look, I think I'm making a number of public appearances over the next few days just to drive home the fact that Kamala Harris's policy have been such a failure for normal Americans. I know the president's very busy over the next few days. One of the things you've got to do is, of course, get out there and speak to people and speak to reporters. A final thing that you have to do, of course, is raise the resources, and I know the president's very busy doing exactly that. So he and I are taking a divide and conquer strategy to this campaign. Sometimes we obviously do events together, but I think we're going to use the fact that we have two people who can both get out there and prosecute a message. We're going to hit the road, but I want to make just one final observation. I know most of you. I like all of you as people, or at least I like the ones of you that I know. I think that you guys have got to do a better job at actually forcing Kamala Harris to answer questions. This is a person who's been the presumptive Democrat nominee for 16 days. She hasn't taken a single real question from a reporter. Wow. The American people deserve to get to know the people who want to lead them, and I think it's shameful for Kamala Harris, but increasingly for the media, that she's taking a basement strategy of running from reporters instead of getting in front of them, answering tough questions about her record, and letting the American people know who she is. President Trump and I take hostile questions, we take non-hostile questions, we get out there and talk to people because we respect the American people enough to want to persuade them and not to try to run from them. So I think you guys got to do a better job. That's my humble opinion. Take it easy, guys.
I love that. I love how he calls them out, because we haven't seen not one single interview since Kamala Harris has been the presumptive Democratic nominee. And you got to ask yourself, like, remember with Biden, they literally didn't push him. They didn't ask him hard questions. Everything was easy. It was just a cake for him when it came to the media. And now they're giving Kamala the same treatment. You have to me, what it looks like is it's such a coalition of the same media that they want one person to win. They want them to always look good as much as possible. But whenever they're told to make them look bad, just like they were with Biden, what happened as soon as Biden did bad in the debate, they forced hard questions on him. Like we were saying, where has this media been the entire time? How is it that they are now asking questions they should have been asking his entire presidency? Why is it that he's now getting such fair treatment, is the word, the way that they ask Trump questions as the way that they ask Biden? But now Kamala is just getting a free ride, and a lot of people are upset about that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I hate that we don't have a fair press. I feel like it's so one-sided, except for maybe Fox or a couple of other ones. But we really need to see the facts, the policies, and make our decisions for who's going to lead this company based upon that, and actually hear it from their own mouth, not from some intern or somebody who graduated from Harvard writing what they have to say on a teleprompter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Caroline Leavitt, National Press Secretary for the Trump team. Caroline, good morning to you and welcome to our program. I've seen a number of statements come out from the RNC. The Trump campaign's reaction on this election is what?
Well, choosing a running mate is Kamala Harris's first big decision as the Democrat Party's nominee. And with this decision, choosing Tim Walz, she has proven just how dangerously liberal she is. Tim Walz is one of the most far-left governors in America. Much like Kamala Harris, he supports wide-open borders. He supports sanctuary cities. In Minnesota, he signed a bill giving licenses to illegal immigrants. Tim Walz, like Kamala Harris, is soft on crime. He also supports the defund the police movement. In fact, in Minnesota, violent crime has increased by 21% since he has been governor. And like Kamala Harris, Tim Walz is anti-American energy. He signed a bill to ban carbon-based fuels in Minnesota by 2040. That is a threat to our national security. That is a gift to China. If Americans want to know what a Harris-Walz America would look like, look at the streets of Minneapolis in the summer of 2020 when they were literally burned to the ground. Look at the streets of San Francisco.
Look at this real quick. I want to call this out. Walz supports making Minnesota a sanctuary state, not a city, a state. Illegals, you can break the federal laws and just come in and stay here, and we're going to protect you. Walz expanded health care for illegal migrants. Yeah, it's okay. Let's step over our homeless vets. Let's step over our seniors. Let's step over them to give expanded health care to illegal immigrants when we have Americans that are hurting. Migrants can apply for driver's licenses in Minnesota. Illegal migrants are eligible for free college in Minnesota. Yep. Let's just keep stepping over the American people to help somebody else that isn't even a citizen of the United States. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, please.
Their liberal utopia is every American's worst nightmare, and we'll spend the next 92 days ensuring every American knows how radical the Harris-Walz ticket is.
Caroline, Governor Walz has not shied away from directly attacking the Trump-Vance ticket. Here he is in another network less than 2 weeks ago, actually less than a week ago, taking a direct hit. Listen.
Keep hammering on these guys. This idea of calling them out for who they are, shrink them. Is he a danger to society? Yes. Is he a danger to women's health? Yes. Is he a danger to world peace? Yes.
A danger to society.
I love how they said he's a danger to world peace. Whenever Trump was president, we had world peace. There wasn't no new wars. Nobody did anything. They all just chilled out. As soon as Biden got into office, Russia attacks Ukraine. Israel attacks Hamas. Hamas attacks Israel. There's so much that is going on. China's thinking about trying to take out Taiwan. Why are they so backwards in their what they say? They gaslight people. I hate whenever they bring up about the foreign policy and how it was worse under Trump whenever we look around the world, and it's so much worse today.
I think the real danger to society, the real threats to democracy are Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, again, who support defunding the police. I heard a threat to women's health. As a woman, I think there's no greater threat to our health than leaders who support gender transition surgeries for young minors, who support putting tampons in men's bathrooms in public schools. Those are radical policies that Tim Walz supports. He actually signed a bill to do that. He supports men in women's sports. That's a real threat to women and girls across this country. These people are radical. And again, we will make sure every American understands just how radical they are. And the people of Minnesota understand how radical of a governor Tim Walz has become. That's why it's a longtime blue state, but we're going on offense in that state. And it is now in play for President Trump. We've opened 8 offices there. We're going to continue to campaign in Minnesota because his own constituents realize how much of a failure he's been. And we'll make sure the rest of the country understands that as well.
Trump was there in St. Cloud about a week ago, I do believe. Good crowd, 90-degree weather. I do believe he had about 10,000 inside, and the campaign suggests he had at least 10,000 more outside. You're about 60 miles northwest of Minneapolis. So we'll see whether or not you're right. Kamala Harris, a moment ago on X, here it is. I'm proud to announce, she writes, that I've asked Tim Walz to be my running mate. As a governor, a coach, a teacher, and a veteran, he's delivered for working families like his. It's great to have him on the team. Now let's get to work. She calls him a battle-tested leader. Your reaction?
Well, neither Kamala Harris nor Tim Walz have done anything for working families. Kamala Harris has 100% supported Bidenomics, which she is now trying to run away from, which we know created the worst inflation crisis in a generation.
Guys, if you don't mind clicking the thumbs up like button, right there. It really helps to grow the channel. Thank you so much for your support.
Kamala Harris is the border czar. She's allowed a mass invasion of more than 11 million illegal people that we know of. Just yesterday, we learned during Kamala Harris's tenure as border czar, there's been 99 known terrorists that have entered our country. Border Patrol, they were flagged as terrorists, and the Biden-Harris administration still allowed them to enter this country. So Kamala Harris needs to answer for her record, by the way. It's been more than 2 weeks since she's become the appointed Dem Party nominee. She has not sat down for an interview. Her campaign website does not include any policy plans, and she refuses to commit to a debate on this network with President Trump because she's trying to run from her record. But again, this vice president...
Isn't it crazy that the only time the Democrats want to debate is on their networks, which Trump did, CNN. But Trump says, why don't we debate on the conservative network, Fox? And they said, nope, we don't want to debate you on that. It's so one-sided.
Presidential pick with Tim Walz as her running mate makes them the most far-left ticket in American history. They would be a danger to America. If we have 4 years of this, America as we know her, as we love her, will literally cease to exist. Both of them need to sit down and answer tough questions to the press about their dangerously liberal records that have left chaos and destruction in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, in San Francisco, in California, where they both hail from.
Caroline, real quick before we let you go, does the Trump-Vance campaign believe that Governor of Pennsylvania Josh Shapiro would have been a more formidable opponent, that he would have been a better pick for the Harris ticket?
No, we were ready to respond to anyone that Kamala Harris chose as her vice presidential running mate. The reality is the Democrat Party has moved so far left, it's unrecognizable these days. But I think Kamala Harris not choosing Josh Shapiro does prove President Trump's point that the Democrat Party, unfortunately, has become the party of anti-Semitism. They've become the party of catering to the far left demands of Hamas sympathizers in this country. And that's probably why she didn't choose Josh Shapiro. But again, you're going to have to ask her that if she ever sits down for an interview.
If she ever sits down for an interview, let me tell you this. I cannot wait to see a debate by Trump and by Vice President Harris. Because I'll tell you this. I think that it'll be just like the Biden debate. She'll fumble over her words, won't be able to articulate properly what's going on. And it's going to be awesome for the American people to see. Because, again, too, we need to see the policies. We need to see them defend it 100%. So there's a big thing that's happening right now. This is literally breaking news across the board. I don't know if you know who she is. Everybody pretty much know who Elon Musk is. He's the Tesla guy. He's the spaceship guy. He's the rocket guy. Well, he's also the guy that owns X, which was formerly known as Twitter. Well, he hired on Linda Yaccarino. She is the CEO of X, which was Twitter. So they have come out today and made a statement over what has been happening behind the scenes in the target against free speech. She came out and made this statement. She's literally wearing two necklaces. I want to give you, I'm giving you a heads up before I show you the video. One says mama and one says free speech. They're filing a lawsuit today along with Rumble and others because they have found evidence that there's been an illegal boycott against them and from this coalition called GARM. And so they're coming out to let everybody know that, hey, look, they have tried to steal away your free speech. And we want you to know we're filing this lawsuit and we're going to fight against this. Check it out.
Hey, everybody. I was shocked by the evidence uncovered by the House Judiciary Committee that a group...
So this was uncovered by the House Judiciary Committee. So it's not just them. They have Congress working on this.
Companies organized a systematic illegal boycott against X. It is just wrong. And that is why we are taking action. Today, we filed an antitrust lawsuit against the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, 4 of its key members, and the World Federation of Advertisers. These organizations targeted our company and you, our users. The evidence and facts are on our side. They conspired to boycott X, which threatens our ability to thrive in the future. That puts your global town square, the one place that you can express yourself freely and openly, at long-term risk. People are hurt when the marketplace of ideas is constricted. No small group of people should be able to monopolize what gets monetized. This group is no match for the power of our users. All of you, the very same users that have driven usage of X to all-time highs. I joined X because I believe in the power of the global town square. It's users like you, people of all backgrounds and opinions, who make X indispensable. You deserve an open platform where your views can be expressed without restriction and without fear. To all of you who have been part of this transformative journey that we're on, thank you. Rest assured, X has never been more committed to innovating and expanding all of our global town square.
So she comes out and she expresses that they have found evidence, and they have Congress involved in this, y'all. It's not just her. It's not just Elon Musk. They have Congress involved, where they have found evidence that there's been an illegal boycott pertaining to X, pertaining to Rumble, that needs to be addressed. And this is something that I've had people, and I don't know, y'all can let me know. I've had people, and I feel like it's changed. Today it's changed. Somehow, I don't know what's happened, but for the past 2 weeks, we've been losing subscribers. People have been telling me that they've been automatically unsubscribed from our channel, which breaks our heart because it's like, man, we work really hard to bring this content, to pull it together, to do all the thumbnails, to do all this, to serve you every day with the top news. But they said, no, but you've been telling us that you've been unsubscribed. Well, we've been losing subscribers for the past couple of weeks. We've lost like over 300 subscribers. Well, today something changed and we've been getting new subscribers, which is phenomenal, which is great. We thank you to all those that are subscribed. We thank you that support the channel, those that hit the like button, those that give a super chat, that give a donation. We couldn't do it without you. Those that are members of the channel. But what we're seeing is that there is people in other organizations that are targeting they're targeting businesses like X. X is a huge $1 billion business. They're targeting Rumble, huge $1 billion business. And we just want to make sure that there is a fair and free marketplace of information for us to be able to come on, show the information, show the facts, and allow you to make your opinion, make up your opinion on what's actually going on. And so that's something that, we're trying to do here on True Life News. That's why we call it True Life, because I feel like there's so much fake news out there. There's so much gaslighting out there, and we just want to see the truth. And this is where, now that we continue to push forward, we have people like Josh Hawley who are fighting and making sure that the truth comes out, to make sure that people know the truth. And I've got to show you this, because this is what I love about some of these pit bulls that aren't afraid to say it like it is. We thank you for your support, but check this out.
Propaganda piece, the Proximal Origin paper, which infamously stated that the SARS-CoV-2 is not a laboratory construct or a purposely manipulated virus. It went on to say it could not possibly have come from a lab. This, of course, we now know is not what multiple U.S. intelligence agencies assessed. What interests me is that your office was very involved in that paper, which was supposed to be an independent piece of scientific analysis, but Dr. Collins actually called Dr. Gary when he was supposedly working on the paper on February 1st, 2020. Is it normal for scientists who are supposedly doing independent research to get together and talk about how their conclusions are going to come out?
Thank you for the question, Senator Hawley. I think in general, yes, it is quite common for scientists across biomedical research fields, while they're in the process of doing research, to discuss with colleagues and other scientists. I do not believe that that is an accurate description of the conversations that took place.
Well, tell us, what were the nature of the conversations?
So, while I was not present for those conversations, my understanding based on readouts is there was a lot of interest in the origins and current understanding of SARS-CoV-2. And I think it's important when we're talking about the term lab leak theory to differentiate between the idea of a virus escaping from a lab, which is a biosafety violation, versus a virus that is engineered or manipulated in the lab and then escapes.
Yeah, and your boss and Dr. Fauci tried to discredit both of those things. They said that the lab was absolutely not involved. We know that at the time that this paper was supposedly being written, because we now have the private correspondence from Dr. Fauci, your boss said that it was a very destructive conspiracy to think that there was a lab involved.
Wow.
So he's on the phone with a scientist, quote unquote scientist, who's supposedly writing an independent paper. By the way, Dr. Gary testified under oath that he was coming to his conclusions while this paper was being written. He was discovering the answers. But we now know that your boss was on the phone with him saying this is a very destructive conspiracy before the paper was even written. My question is, why was your office so intent on pushing to the public the idea that this could not possibly have been a lab issue? Is it because of the NIH's role in funding gain-of-function research at the lab? Is that the reason why?
Ooh. So, Senator Hawley, I would say that in the event of any new and emerging infectious disease, if you've ever gone through a tabletop exercise in biosecurity,
Yeah. Answer my question. Is it because that NIH was actually funding, helping to fund, EcoHealth was funding gain-of-function research?
No, I believe that's an inaccurate assessment.
In fact, your boss misled Congress and testified falsely that NIH and the EcoHealth had never conducted gain-of-function research in Wuhan, correct?
No, that's incorrect.
He did testify that.
I believe, sir, that what he testified to was that there was no evidence at that time that NIH was funding research that met the scope of the P3CO policy, which I want to differentiate from the term gain-of-function research.
Oh, of course, this is the classic. This is the classic. Now that we've lied, now that you have, and your office lied to the American people for years, told the American people that a lab leak was a very destructive conspiracy. That's your boss's statement while you were his chief of staff, course, we now know that that was the conspiracy to hide this from the American people, to censor people who went out and said, you know what, actually, maybe this is a lab leak. Your office, Dr. Fauci and others tried to actively censor them. There was a propaganda effort that this paper was the center of. And now everybody says, oh well, we just weren't sure at the time. We didn't really know. You knew exactly what you were doing. You were actively misleading the American people the entire time. Get this, after that paper, it's really an opinion piece, was published, your boss then says to Dr. Fauci that he had really hoped that the paper would settle this. Is there anything more that we can do to shut down this destructive conspiracy? This is in April of 2020. And then Dr. Fauci went to the White House podium and said that absolutely there's no way that this could have come from a lab. Why was let me come back to my original question. Why was your office so intent on shutting down any talk about this being involved with a lab? Why? I don't understand it. Why the hysteria?
So, Senator Hawley, I will say that my understanding of the situation is that no one at NIH, including Dr. Collins, Dr. Fauci, myself, ever suggested that there wasn't the possibility that a virus had escaped from a lab.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Let
me just stop you right there. I cannot have these lies just continue to be told over and over again.
Come
Sorry.
on.
And wrong. That's false. You people repeatedly said it could not have come from a lab. Your boss said it was a very destructive conspiracy. Not that it was unlikely, not that it was not the best idea, a conspiracy. And based on that, you censored, and your administration that you worked for actively censored scientists, journalists. And what we now know is our own intelligence agencies at the same time were concluding and briefing members of Congress that it likely was from a lab leak. I mean, it's extraordinary. And now you've been caught red-handed because you thought that the rest of us wouldn't find out. You thought that the public would always be kept in the dark. And as it turns out, we now know these emails have become public that you were pushing this propaganda effort and yet claiming the mantle of science. Don't you see that what you have done has set back the respectability and integrity of science by generations? You were acting as propagandists. Do you regret your role in any of this?
So, Senator Hawley, I don't think you've characterized.
Do you regret your role in any of the misleading of the public? Do you regret your role in your office saying that a lab nexus here is a very destructive conspiracy? Do you regret your role in helping censor millions of Americans who were kicked off social media, who were disciplined at work for saying that maybe a lab was involved, which we now know the FBI thinks is the case? Do you regret it?
I do not believe I ever had the role that you're describing.
Do you regret anything that you did during this period? Do you regret not speaking out? Do you regret not advising your boss to temper his comments? Do you regret not opposing the censorship? Do you regret it? You're in a position of tremendous influence.
I do not believe censorship took place, sir.
You don't believe censorship took...
Are you even kidding me? Did you just hear this? Do y'all remember people were literally being banned off of Facebook? They were being banned off of Instagram. They were being banned across everywhere. I mean, this is even YouTube. YouTube would take down videos if you said something like that. And she has the audacity. Look at, we're all surprised, guys. She has the audacity to sit there and say that there was no censorship. This is why the public doesn't believe the scientists anymore. They're all a bunch of fat liars.
Place?
I do not.
What world are you living in?
Exactly. What's your reality?
Tell that to the scientists who basically lost their credentials. Tell that to the people who were kicked off of social media and banned because they asked about a lab leak. You don't believe censorship took place? The privilege is astounding. You were the chief of staff at the NIH pushing these conspiracies, pushing the effort to shut down Americans, and now you have the gall to sit here and say censorship never took place. I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Senator.
I can't
It is
believe it.
unbelievable.
I cannot believe that that's your testimony. And frankly, I can't believe you have the gall to sit here and say that.
That's the world we're living in, guys. Like, it just blows my mind how people just don't even recognize. It's like they believe these lies that we literally lived through. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw how Biden was. We saw what happened with the pandemic, with COVID, all this stuff. But they want us to say, no, that never happened. We lived through it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. This is crazy. I do want to show you this. How many of y'all love Ford? I've had a Ford vehicles in the past. I think they're pretty cool. You may not want to get a Ford in the future. You're not going to believe what you're about to see. Check it out.
Ford just filed a patent that would report speeding vehicles to the police. Basically, every new Ford is going to have a device that'll track all the vehicles that are around it, and any vehicle that is...
Sorry, guys. It's for some reason it's not loading. Let me reload this.
Ford just filed a patent that would report speeding vehicles to the police. Basically, every new Ford is going to have a device that'll track all the vehicles that are around it, and any vehicle that is speeding, well, it will automatically get reported to the police. Not only that, this same device is also going to allow them to be able to track your vehicle and report it to the police if you're caught speeding too. They've only filed for this patent so far. It hasn't actually been approved, but make sure you're following and I'll let you know if it does.
So, you just heard it. Ford literally has filed for this patent. Yes, this Ford Motor Companies, they filed for this patent to allow for surveillance of vehicles around you while you're driving and what you're driving to. And if people go over the speed limit, they will send that information with images, things like that, to the police and let them know who is speeding. If this isn't Big Brother, if this isn't government overreach, I don't know what is. But this is where Ford is very lock and step with the government on a lot of things. There's billion-dollar contracts that the government has with Ford to buy their vehicles for whatever needs they may be. And this is like, I can't believe this. I can't believe Ford's doing this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But this is insane to see a company this is like overstepping at the highest level in people's rights. Like, this is just too much. I don't agree with it. This needs to be stopped. We don't need to have people like surveilling other cars and then reporting it to the police whenever people go over the speed. They don't know. What if they're just happening? There's so many things that could happen. But this is literally what's happening, guys. I'm trying to bring y'all all the information because there's a lot of things that are going on in this world. There's so much news that's going on, and I want to make sure that y'all have the top news. I want to say thank you to everybody that is subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We want to serve you every day with the top news and make sure that you're informed. Thank you to everybody that is a member of the channel. Thank you to everybody that gives a super chat donation, guys. It means so much to us. It's such a blessing. But remember, Monday through Friday, 2 shows a day. And then on the weekends, you can guaranteed 1 show. But we want to make sure you're taken care of. There's so much crazy things happening, and you deserve to know the truth. Here on True Life News, we love you. We thank you. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.